They went 13-3. If you have the #1 offense, unless you just have an abysmal defense, Cowboys got 10th ranked defense, you are an excellent team. Unless you can't win close games, you can't make plays in the critical moments, and you constantly get out-schemed by your opponent. Check, check, check. If coaching matters in the NFL, Danny, which I would argue it matters more in the NFL than any of the other major sports as far as head coaching advantages, the Cowboys are at a major disadvantage. Every week they continue with Jason Garrett.
What would your option be, though? Are you going to elevate Rod Marinelli? Are you going to elevate Kellen Moore, John Kitna, like somebody from that staff?
I think I'd elevate Chris Richard, to be totally honest, and let Marinelli, let the coordinators stay and elevate Chris Richard.
All right, so if that's the option there, it's not a bad option, but is that the difference maker? And you never know until you do it. I think one of two things need to happen. You either fire Jason Garrett, if you're Jerry Jones, or you stop talking to the media and keep this speculation going. Because a couple weeks ago it was, hey, I'm going to try to put pressure on this team and say that, you know, losing is unacceptable and I might make changes. Then you come out after Thanksgiving and you say 0% chance I'm making a change. Now you kind of, you know, then during the week he says Jason Garrett's going to coach in the NFL somewhere without endorsing him. Jerry Jones is a part of this problem, too. That's something that doesn't get talked about enough. It is dysfunctional the way he runs this organization, the way he gets involved in a lot of the decision-making, the way he holds press conferences after every single game and gives us all stuff to talk about and adds additional pressure to this team, who clearly is not handling it well right now. So one of those two things are going to happen. I don't think either of them do, though, because what's the point of this game? Is that really going to be the difference if you get rid of Jason Garrett? Is that going to put you over the hump? No,
Probably
his contract's done. Just let it play out. It'll be easy for you. If you're Jerry, it'll be an easy decision to make. That's where I think he's fallen back on. And what happens if? What happens if they do win the NFC East and all this talent puts it together?
But then I want a different coach in place.
If you want that to happen, what if they are able to fight through it? We've seen other teams struggle at times.
If they are able to fight through it, go ahead.
No, I was going to say at minimum. So here's the thing. I don't think it's if you're NFC East, you're keeping, you know, because that's the worst division in the history of football. I don't think it's if you win a playoff game. I think you have to go to the NFC Championship game to keep Jason Garrett, and then it's there for you. And if he does,
drawing dead for. No, and my point is because of the talent. If all of a sudden they had an infusion of a great head coach, and I'm not saying we have no idea if Chris Richard would even be an average head coach, but I know what Jason Garrett is. At this point, I would take the unknown over the known because what I'm about to show you is unacceptable. The Cowboys points scored, points allowed, yards forced, yards allowed, compared to, I'll just tell you that team is in a moment. They've scored more points. They've allowed fewer points. They have 1,000 more yards on the season. They've allowed fewer yards. Who's the other team? Show me, please. The 10-2 Seattle Seahawks. You know how a team can have scored fewer, allowed more, 1,000 fewer yards, allowed more yards? Because of two people, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson makes the critical plays in the critical spots, and Pete Carroll always has his team ready to take a punch. Pete Carroll can Jedi mind trick his team into saying, we're going to punt the ball away, crazily, with 1:40 left in overtime, with no timeouts, and we're still going to win this game, boys. And somehow they do. Like, you can't acquire Russell Wilson, but you can change the head coach to hope to find your Pete Carroll.
Well, you were a player. You were in locker rooms. Would a coaching change like this, is this something that can actually galvanize a team? I mean, this is a very talented team that seems like they are fractured right now in the locker room.
They absolutely are. They are the opposite.
An unknown commodity and a new head coach for the first time. Could that actually galvanize a team?
It could. It could. I mean, sometimes there's a sense of urgency that needs to be, you know, a change needs to be made to spur something different. The problem is, I think that only adds to the panic level. You mentioned the Seahawks. They are the definition of a clutch football team, and right now the Cowboys are the antithesis of that. Like, I don't even know what the word is for anti-clutch, but they cannot get it done when it matters the most. They're great. First quarter opening drives, they have a scripted set of plays. They go right down the field.
And they haven't even been great with that. That's only the last 2 weeks they've been able to score first.
It is inexplicable how this happens, but I don't think changing a coach is all of a sudden going to rattle the cage and all of a sudden they figure it out and the
I don't think it will either, but I know that the status quo is going to lead to, if they win the division, getting crushed at home by either Seattle, who they could
I
play
don't
as
think
a
that's a
5
done
seed,
deal. I
San
mean, if you had me
Francisco.
put money on a team, I would clearly put those. But what happens if all the stats you give me, top 10 defense, Zeke puts it together? What if he rushes for over 120?
They start off 7-0, get punched in the face and fold. And by the way,
so the usual.
On that comparison, credit to Football Perspective on Twitter, who brought it up last night. I saw it. I thought it was great. So I want to put it on the show. But
all right,
my idea.
Let us move on to the biggest matchup on Sunday, the Chiefs and the Patriots, the new chosen one in Pat Mahomes against the original chosen one in Tom Brady. TB12 knows how fast this Chiefs team plays. Mahomes knows you can't make mistakes against Brady and Belichick. I know that Nick will have an opinion on this one. So, Nick, take it away. Who wins this game on Sunday, Patriots or Chiefs?
This is the first time in at least 5 years that I would be legitimately surprised if the Patriots win a home game. It's not just that I think the Chiefs can win. It's that I think the Chiefs will. Look at the resumes of these two teams. I look at how they've played against the best competition, how they've played recently, and I say, oh, well, barring some unforeseen circumstances, why wouldn't Kansas?
This game on Sunday, Patriots or Chiefs?
This is the first time in at least 5 years that I would be legitimately surprised if the Patriots win a home game. It's not just that I think the Chiefs can win. It's that I think the Chiefs will win. And I look at the resumes of these two teams. I look at how they've played against the best competition, how they've played recently. And I say, oh, well, barring some unforeseen circumstances, why wouldn't Kansas City go to Foxborough and win? The Patriots last month, Danny, let's just look at it. Played Baltimore. They were down 17 in that game twice. 17-0 and then 37-20. They lost that game twice. They escape against Philly. Philly since then has not won a game and let Ryan Fitzpatrick hang 23 straight on them. They escape against Dallas 13-9. Dallas since then has not won a football game and looks terrible. They then play Houston and they're down 28-9 with 4 minutes left in that football game before they had some garbage time points. Kansas City, on the other hand, this year, they are, to me, wildly undervalued because you look at the record compared to last season, which, by the way, might end up being the same thing, 12-4, 12-4. Kansas City's played one bad game all year. The game against Indianapolis on Sunday Night Football, where they just, the offense was a no-show the entirety of the game. They have two, what I would consider great wins, beating Baltimore and then beating Minnesota with their backup quarterback. And they also were tied with Green Bay in the fourth quarter with their backup quarterback. The Chiefs are a team that, while they have had some really, really bad game management moments late in games, which might be par for the course for an Andy Reid team, they have shown the ability to beat the best teams in football. The Patriots have absolutely not.
All right, I've made this mistake that you are making right now. Before in my life, I have doubted the Patriots late in December or last year in the playoffs. Said, man, this team looks like just left for dead. Like they don't have anything left in the tank.
I've made that mistake as well.
And I'm not making it again until Brady and Belichick decide to ride off in the sunset. The Patriots' problems, as much as Brady's play has been critiqued, and it has not been very good this year, it's because they're relying on him too much. They are passing the football 60% of the time. So that's the most since 2015. It's only happened 3 times in Tom Brady's career. 2015, 2012, and this season. They are relying on him too much with a lack of weapons on the outside. They do not have a 100-yard rusher this season. Guess where the Chiefs' weakness is? Rushing defense. They are 30th in the NFL. I think the Patriots will give Tony Michel a healthy dose. I think they'll get back on track. I think they'll play a little bit of the keep-away game that we saw earlier this season. The Colts had success with it. Remember, they go in and they start running the football. They hold the ball for 40 minutes almost of the game. I think the Patriots are going to go to that, which actually maybe will help the Patriots that they figure out they've been relying on Tom Brady too much. He's 42 years old. You can't keep going to him and keep going to the well, or else you're going to get exposed, which they have been to this point. But like the Patriots do, they figure things out. And I think that's something they're going to figure out, and it's going to happen this weekend.
So here's the other concern, though, for New England, because I'm not going to sit here and argue the Chiefs' run defense is anything other than awful. It was awful last year. It's been awful this year. The overall defense has been better this year, especially when Chris Jones has been healthy, but that's because of getting to the quarterback or forcing turnovers, pass defense, not because of the ability to stop the run. The other problem for New England, though, is what they had hung their hat on for 2 months was the most dominant pass defense the league had ever seen through 8 games. That's what it was through the first 7-8 weeks of the season. 1 touchdown allowed, 18 interceptions. A quarterback rating allowed of 35 when you get a 39 for spiking the football. Like, they were absolutely perfect in pass defense. Since they have started, it started with Baker, then Lamar, then Wentz, then Dak, then Deshaun. Baker's not playing well this year, but 5 legitimate NFL starting quarterbacks. Since then, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 91 rating allowed. Still doing better than most do against that caliber of quarterbacks, but not the dominant force they were. Mahomes is better than all those guys, even though Lamar's the MVP this year. And the